Rockwell.
I'd like to know, are you really ready for some super dynamite soul? And thank you, because now it's start time.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's that time. It's 7 p.m. It's Saturday, and we are live. This is your brother, DJ Rockwell, the nation's #1 DJ. You are tuned in to the Rockwell Radio Show. Glad to have you. So glad to have you. And I've got so much to say. This show is important to me again, and I say this every week, but I really mean it when I say it. This show is important to me for so many reasons. So many reasons. And it's so important that before I even begin, I'm going to ask everybody to take a moment to share the show, hit the like button, share the show, hit the like button, and once again, share the show. And above all, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and take the time to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, because tonight's show is something special. Tonight's show is something incredible. And I'm going to try to jump right into it because we only got 60 minutes. And if brother is gracious with his time, we may go a bit over, but I'm going to try to keep it right in line with the 60-minute time frame of the Rockwell Radio Show. I thought about the things that I would say in introduction of this matter. And I wrote a lot of thoughts, so I'll get right to them. And I don't normally do an opening monologue, an opening speech, if you will. But this is necessary in today's occasion. As we talk about my guest, who is none other than our big brother out of our headquarters, Chicago, Illinois, I'm talking about Student Minister Abel Muhammad, who will be joining us in just a brief moment. But I wanted to convey these quick thoughts to you. I was thinking about what I would say. And I thought about, what is it? What do brown and black people have in common that make them both benefit from the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? Some have asked that question. I have asked that question. And it was only appropriate that I came up with a title for this conversation called Reaching Across the Border. And that has multiple meanings, which we'll explore throughout the program. I was aware, and I know that you're aware, of the shifting demographic here in America. And as we've heard many call it, the browning of America. And in just a few moments, I'm going to give you some statistics that prove and show exactly that, and to what degree, because I saw it, I've heard it, but I didn't understand to what degree we are witnessing the browning of America. And the need to know of a second language is now not just optional, but paramount. And I thought, why did the Honorable Louis Farrakhan think it wise that this is not just something, and it didn't originate with him, obviously, that this is not just something that is good for the black man and woman of America and the world? Why is the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad also applicable to our brown brothers and sisters? That is the question that we're going to raise in today's conversation. So I threw together some quick facts that I want to share with you. But again, if you're watching for the first time, welcome to the Rockwell Radio Show. My name is Brother Vaughn Muhammad, most know me as DJ Rockwell, your little brother from Atlanta. Glad to have you. Once again, go ahead and share the show. Hit the like button, hit the love button, and tell somebody that right now, your brother DJ Rockwell is live on the air. And we've got a very important guest that we're going to talk to. But I want to show you some quick facts. I'm going to call this quick segment, and again, we're just setting the stage for today's conversation. I just want to share some quick did you knows. Did you know? And we're talking about our brown brothers and sisters. We're going to call this quick Spanish facts. Did you know that Spanish is the second most spoken language in the world? Did you know that over 500 million people speak it as a first language? Did you know that the third most studied language in the world is Spanish? How about this one? That the population of the Spanish-speaking nations are predicted to reach 750 million by the year 2050. How about that one? How about the fact that Spanish is the official language in 20 countries around the world? And this last, did you know that Mexico, of course, as you may know, is the 13th largest country, has the largest Spanish-speaking population. And how about this for quick U.S. Latino population facts? Right here in the States, in 2020, studies have shown that the U.S. Hispanic population has reached over 62 million, or that equates to 19% of the population of the United States. And lastly, nearly 1 out of every 6 people, 1 out of 6 in the U.S. are Hispanic and Latino. When we think of these demographic facts, aren't they a people worthy of this beautiful information? And who are we to hog it to ourselves? What is the tie between the brown and the black man? And I realized something, and I'm gonna be quick as I bring on our guest. I realized that we've all been miseducated. I'm gonna say it again. We've been miseducated about our own people. In school, well, I'm from the Midwest originally, and we didn't have the information. We weren't taught about the Aztec culture that dates back to the 13th century. We weren't taught about the Aztec warriors, the fighters, the empires. We weren't taught about who are these mighty and great people. But you know who we were taught about? Pardon me. You know who we were taught about? We got sat in front of the TV as children and watched cartoons. And the only influence or the only exposure that we had to what the Mexican was this. This is what we were given. We got exposed to Mexico by Speedy and Slowpoke. Stereotypes. And most of us carry that with us to this very day. So today, we're going to do a learning class. You and I, we're going to get educated. And we're going to know not only the importance of the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we're going to ask questions and get answers to the connection, the tie, if you will, between the brown man and the black man. We're going to ask a few questions. We're going to get educated on what are the meaning of these words we hear thrown around, like Hispanic, Latino. What's the difference between race and ethnicity? Again, in closing, as I introduce my brother, I learned that we have to reach across the border. We have to reach out to them. They are reaching out to us. And together, we have to reach out to spread this wonderful message of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So before I bring my brother on, I want you to take just a brief moment and watch this.
Student Minister Abel Muhammad.
All praise is due to Allah. All praise is due to Allah. Please, thank you. En el nombre de Alá, el benéfico, el misericordioso. En el nombre de Alá, el benéfico, el misericordioso. En el nombre de Alá, el benéfico, el misericordioso.
Introduce our keynote speaker this morning. Please receive Brother Student Minister Abel Muhammad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
With no further ado, please welcome for the first time to the Rockwell Radio Show, my brother and yours. He is the student representative to Latin America and the Spanish-speaking peoples of the earth. On behalf of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, please welcome our brother, Student Minister Abel Muhammad.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. It's an honor to be on here with you, my brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, big brother. So glad to have you. Thank you so much for taking out of your time to build on this very, very important topic.
Oh, my brother, it was an honor when I had someone that assists you reach out to me. I jumped at the opportunity as soon as I saw my date was clear, because I'm not just your brother, but I'm a fan of your program, of the music you play, because hip hop was a big part of my introduction to Islam.
Oh, we're gonna talk about it.
Oh yeah. So definitely, you know, it's on many levels that we have a affinity with one another, not just because of our belief, but I think we have a similar interest and love of the same type of music.
Come on with it. Come on. Y'all heard it. Brother Abel Muhammad is in the house. He is in the house, and we're going to jump right into it. Like I said, my brother, I'm going to try to stay to 60 minutes.
Yes,
Dave C., my producer, is always watching the clock, making sure I try to not take advantage of my guest time. So we're going to dive right in, if it's okay with you.
Yes, sir, please.
You know, as I began to learn about not only your story, but learn about the culture of the brown people of the earth, I learned so much that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And as I began to look at your story, big brother, I thought it wise to begin with your root.
Yes, sir.
I thought, let's start with the brother's family, who, according to your bio, is from a town in central Mexico called Querétaro. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Right. It's the state of Querétaro, and the city is called Tequisquiapan, which is a small town, a very, very old city, actually, inside of the state of Querétaro, which is right. You're exactly right. Central, southern part of the country.
In order for Black America to understand better our Latin brothers in their struggle, I thought, because the way that most of you come in our radar is through the media,
right,
through the conversation of immigration. Why did your parents choose to start over again in America?
And you know, and that's a great question, brother, because people don't understand the why, what motivates people. You know, I'm here in Chicago, where today is 39 degrees, and today in Querétaro, which is south of Atlanta, it's even nicer there than it is in Atlanta.
How about it? Yes, sir.
So there's a reason that people leave these places where most of us would go vacation during this time of the year.
Right.
And it's not because of the climate. They're not coming to Iowa to work in a factory, or to Chicago or Milwaukee to work in a factory because they love the weather. It's because of a need where they don't see another way for them to make it in their hometown. And the reason that those conditions exist that force migration as a more viable option than staying at home is because you have American corporate interests in those countries and in those cities in Mexico. So what happens is they undermine the economy, do away with any opportunity to really force people to a migration up north, so they can then now have cheaper labor within the United States, because these are American corporations. And what they're seeking is ultimately what was never replaced, which was slave labor. So they want to replace it with the cheapest labor that they can. And because of unions and other laws, the only way that they can really enforce cheap labor, the cheapest labor, is by hiring what they call undocumented workers, because undocumented workers, by not having a legal status that permits them to work, could never demand their rights. So if a boss decides you're going to work 12 hours today, who do I go to? I don't have papers to work. So they use these things, but that's what really brought my parents here. My parents came here, and I already have 3 older siblings, but they came here looking for a better financial opportunity. It's not uncommon. The idea was not always to just move here permanently. It was to move here, and we would send money home to our siblings and our other family back in Mexico, where the dollar could be stretched further in the land where our parents worked. But more and more American corporations undermined farming, undermined all of the local businesses. So now, even if we sent money home, there was not enough that could be done with it. So more and more families started coming to Chicago, to Milwaukee, to Iowa, to these different places, not again because we hated Mexico or wanted to leave there. We saw more financial opportunity here in a way that we might be able to strengthen our homeland eventually. It just has never worked that way because we didn't realize it, a scheme that we were being involved with that was being capitalized by the capitalists. And that is the circumstance that almost every, not just Mexican, but Central American, people from the Caribbean find themselves in. They come here because they see an opportunity, not because they see necessarily a dream or a future. They see their future back home, but they want to extract what they can to take it back home.
See, now that's a perspective that I have never heard in the media ever.
Right.
And we wonder why.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's interesting. You put up the images earlier, my brother, of Slowpoke Rodriguez and Speedy Gonzalez.
Right.
It's interesting because in Mexico, similarly, the only images we have of Black people are negative stereotypes from movies like Menace to Society, from this figure, which was really a satirical figure of a blackface character called Memín Penguin, which is beloved by Mexican people. They didn't see him as racist.
How about
even up until the 1990s, because it was an image that had been brought about since they were little children. I'm talking about the 30s, the 40s, the 50s generations.
Wow.
But this was their perception of Black people through the media. And it's interesting that the same media that feeds us lies on this side of the border about our natural brothers feeds the same lie, telling us that Black people are lazy. Well, look at it, and you get a sleepy, what's it called? Slowpoke Rodriguez, making us think that we are not. And so when we get to a workplace together, we're looking at one another with weird eyes, thinking, look it, I'm going to have to do the work that they don't do. When we're the two of the hardest working people on the planet, that's why the enemy goes and gets us to do their labor for them.
Brother, as we conclude this point, I'm going to share another point of what I did not know. And I'll just be transparent about what I didn't know. I didn't know that there were pyramids there.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I didn't know that.
I was blessed to visit them for the first time when I was, I think, in 8th grade. I had visited Mexico one time when I was younger, about 10 years old, to visit my family. But then when I was in 8th grade, which would be about 14 years old, my parents took me for the first time to Cancun, which is in the Yucatan, the very southern tip of Mexico, right before you get into Central America, where you have the Mayan ruins. And when I was blessed to see them for the first time for myself, I was in awe. It was absolutely breathtaking. And to be honest with you, the only other pyramids I'd ever seen were the Egyptian pyramids.
Right.
I hadn't seen those in person, but I'd read about them and seen them in books and such, and in school. I automatically just thought there was a natural connection between them because there were the only 2 sets of pyramids I'd ever known about. And interestingly, the more I studied, once I became aware of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I started studying, for example, the sarcophagus of what they call the King Tut tomb.
Right.
And I started looking at the symbolism on there. If you look at the crown that's on King Tut's sarcophagus,
yes, sir.
There's a serpent on one end and there's a bird on the other end. Well, that directly ties to what they call or refer to as the Mesoamerican savior or Christ-like figure, Quetzalcoatl, which means the feathered serpent. So what are the chances that these two ideologies on different parts of the planet would develop in such a way without there being some sort of connection that exists between the two people?
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, with us this evening on the Rockwell Radio Show is our brother Abel Muhammad, live from headquarters. I mean, we're going to get into it today, and I guarantee you're going to walk away with something that you didn't know before.
Praise be to Allah. Me too. I already did.
Let's move forward, big brother.
Yes, sir.
And we're talking about immigration here, right?
Yes.
I would imagine that to some degree that immigrants are pressured by society to assimilate. So growing up in a big city like Chicago, did you personally ever face such pressure? And if so, how would you describe that experience?
I did, but we're blessed in Chicago to have one of the largest Mexican populations.
Really?
We have an area here called Little Village, and it's 26th Street in Chicago, where my family was mostly centered around. I never lived there, but one of my aunts owned a business there, and other aunts lived in that immediate community. So we would go there, and my mother worked there for years as well. So we would go into Little Village. This is where you found all of the Mexican restaurants, all the Mexican stores. Everything we had was there, and most of our community was there. Interestingly, economically, it is second in Chicago only to the Gold Coast.
Really?
That's downtown Chicago. Economically, it's the second strongest community, but when you walk the community, it doesn't look anything like the Gold Coast.
How about that?
You still have killings of our young people in that community. You still have a lack of resources. You still have want. You still have homelessness. So even though it's second in economics, where is that money going to? Because we own a lot of that.
How about it?
In that community, or at least we own the storefronts, but we're not always the store owners or the building owners. More and more, we're beginning to purchase it up, and more as we have purchased, there has been an increase in the crime and other things and lack of resources. It's not by accident, it's by design. And there is, of course, the illicit activity of drug dealing and the gang warfare that goes on in that neighborhood and in that community. But it's a community that as a young man, I had to go through every day when I was going to high school. And I had one of my best friends, Greg, lived there. So we would be there all the time, and we became friends with different street organizations just because you had to grow up.
Right.
So for me, I didn't really have a real connection to Mexico because I didn't know it. I didn't never live there.
Gotcha.
But my connection was through playing soccer. My dad played soccer up until he was about 50 something years old here in Chicago. As you know, after kind of like a what do you call that? A private club, right? They would play after work and things like that, but they played real organized games. As a little boy, my earliest thoughts, the earliest pictures of me, my mom said, as soon as I learned how to walk, I was running and kicking a soccer ball around because that's what I saw my father doing.
Come on now.
And so my earliest memories of really being surrounded in a Mexican community were playing soccer, going to the park and seeing us. And, there was a lot of liquor involved, but there was also a lot of beauty, a lot of music, a lot of good food, a lot of vendors, and a lot of pride in just knowing that we had one another. So that if you saw another Mexican child, if you saw another Mexican family, even if you didn't know them, there was an instant bond because you knew that they were probably suffering like you were suffering. Just like you didn't always have all the food, all the shoes, all the new stuff that you wanted. I wanted Jordans like all my classmates had.
Come on, man.
But we couldn't afford Jordans. So my mom would take me to Payless and we'd get whatever Payless shoes we could afford.
We got Jordans.
Exactly. We would go to what was the other store we would go to? There was no Walmart back then. It was a store called Venture. We would go into Venture and get me some little $5 gym shoes or whatever we could afford because that's what I could afford. In my heart, I wanted the shoes that everyone else had. Couldn't afford them. And there was a little bit of that, what you were mentioning there, my brother. There was a part of me that was resentful of my parents because you know how you're immature when you're young. I didn't understand how much they had sacrificed just to be here.
Think about that part. Wow.
They left everyone and everything that they loved to come here, not for themselves, but so that their children and their broader family might have something better than they thought that they even had the option of attaining to. I don't believe either of my parents. My mom, I believe, graduated high school, but not my father. Yet they're two of the most brilliant people in the world. And
how it always works. Come on, man.
It's how it works. And that's how at my heart, Now, as an adult, once I learned the truth of the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it allowed me to go back and look at my parents and have a whole different level of respect for them.
Right.
Because I saw two human beings that, in spite, my dad's a very dark man. And his complexion is much darker than what you call the average Mexican you see on TV.
Sure.
My mother is about my complexion. And when they came here, I know he had to have caught hell. And when we would drive around, he still showed me, where he used to live when they first got here on Halsted, which is all what you call Inglewood now, Black community. And interestingly, now again, Inglewood, which has been for years known as one of the most crime-ridden communities in the Black community, is now becoming more and more Mexican. And we're starting to see that natural unity that comes, and the enemy always wants to come in and cause division, because any sense of unity we would have would be strength for us, and we could actually control and make our own communities a safe and decent place to live. And they've never wanted that for us, but that's what in my heart I saw eventually. Now that, when I look back as an adult in the sacrifice my parents made, that they were just doing what they thought was best, not just in an individual sense. They didn't have no big dream to come here and become a millionaire. They had a big dream that they could come here and that their children could have a better life than they have. That was it.
There's so much in that I could dive into, my God, because that's so much of an experience that we can't speak to.
Exactly.
Because when we think about our ancestry, they didn't come by choice.
Exactly.
And just to hear the story of people who came by choice, who chose to struggle, who chose to sacrifice, who chose to work hard to make a living for their family, it changes the dynamic a bit, which kind of leads to my second question a bit.
Yes, sir.
Or my next part of the question. Let me ask this question here. And I'm talking about, this is from my introductory comments, brother, where I say that I was just learning so much in preparation for this conversation. And I realized again how ignorant I was about the history and the culture of my Latino family. And let me touch it here. We hear these words, Latino,
right,
Hispanic, Chicano, and now this new term I never heard before called Latinx. Please give us the explanation of what is the proper terminology that we should be using.
Brother, those terms are not any different than the terminology you get in the Black community when you have, even today, you have some people who will say, no, we're, back in the day, it was, of course, Negro was the name that was given. Then Afro, Afro-American, then Black American. Then, today you have different terms which people would say is the right quote unquote term to use. But all of those terms ultimately are rooted in our identifying ourselves with some sort of connection to our enemy. And it's no different. Hispanic means the people who speak Spanish. Well, that's not the native language of any of the people here. That was the language of the Spaniards who came, Europeans who came and conquered. Latin America has to do with Latium, which has to do with the Roman Empire, which has to do with the religion that they brought and the Catholicism and those romantic languages, Spanish being one of them, which they came and brought to this hemisphere. And because the church had funded that, it was the Roman Catholic Church under the Pope who had written what's called a papal bull, giving them and splitting part of it with the Spanish crown, the lands that were discovered. Politically, they would belong to the Spanish crown, but the souls of the people were to be for the church to try to evangelize, if you will, and convert them. And this is where you have much of this now coming up in what's called the Latin American people, right? We call it Latin America because it's a geographic area, but Latino or Hispanic is not a race. It's not an ethnicity. It's a geographic area. Well, that's such a cheap way to try to describe people. To just say, well, you're from this area. It's not terrible because at least it gives us some sense of belonging. Just like today you have those who call themselves African American because they don't know what part of Africa they're from.
Ding, ding, ding.
We don't know what tribe we're from, most of us.
How about that?
Many who are today taking up native ways are doing it by backing their way into it. They know that maybe mom was from the Apache or from the Lakota, some tribe, but they didn't grow up on a reservation. And even if they did, how much of the tradition was practiced on that reservation and taught to us in school? So we're all dealing from a level of ignorance, brother. And that's why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that our greatest enemy today is ignorance.
Ignorance.
Because we don't know ourselves and we don't know who our brother and sister is. You don't know yourself, so you don't know who your brother and sister is. And so somebody's filling in the gaps for us, naming us, giving us names, telling us to look on the differences in our names, look at the differences in our features, and then having us identify ourselves based on those differences without ever understanding who and what we really are. That's the biggest problem we have today. I don't know the native tribe that my people belong to. Even if I did know now, that tribe is gone. You don't know what tribe your people necessarily came from. And now the enemy even gives you these kits that they'll send to your house and let you swab your mouth, and you pay them money for them with their imperfect science to try to tell you where your people are from, when they actually have the documentation of where our people are from, and they've purposely hidden it from us.
The audacity.
It's damnable, really, brother. It's damnable to have us paying. And it's disgusting that some Indian tribes, to try to make people prove how native they are asking for these type of DNA tests, which is so untraditional, unnative, unindigenous a practice, to go to the enemy with their imperfect science to pay them to now classify who and what you are based on their limited knowledge. This is why what we need is a true knowledge of ourselves. And that's why the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad are so important, because it takes us past flag, it takes us past geography, it takes us past dirt, it takes us to the essence of who and what you and I are. And it's only there where we could forge real unity.
I hope that everyone is listening, because with me tonight is our big brother, Student Minister Abel Muhammad. He represents the Honorable Louis Farrakhan to Latin America and the Spanish-speaking people all around the world, and he does so absolutely great. Brother, we are coming almost to the end of the first half. I've got two more questions I'm going to try to squeeze in before the break.
Yes, sir.
Please tell us the story of how, when, and where you were first exposed to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Brother,
and what was it about it that was attractive to you as a so-called Mexican?
It was in high school.
Okay.
There was he was a year or two ahead of me in high school, a classmate, and he had, not this edition, but he had the Final Call newspaper, and he had a stack of them on the table, and on the cover of the paper, it said, "Treatment for AIDS found in Africa." It blew my mind, because my first thought was, that can't be true, or I would have seen it on the news. There again, misinformation.
How about it?
I asked him if I could see it. I read it. Next, I saw him in class, and he was holding up a book that said on the cover at the top, "From God in Person." And the book was How to Eat to Live. And I looked at that book and I asked him if I could read it. I started looking through it and it fascinated me. I took it home and read it. And for whatever reason, it just appealed to me. And I started obeying what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote in that book on how we should eat. And then I read Message to the Black Man in America. And at the same time I was reading this book, I started hearing and realizing that in the music I was listening to, in hip hop music, I had been hearing this voice on some of those tracks.
Come on.
The voice of in Big Daddy Kane songs, in songs by Poor Righteous Teachers, in songs by my brother Cam, by Ice Cube. There was this voice and this name, a group named Public Enemy had mentioned, Farrakhan. And I didn't know who he was really. I just knew the name and I knew his voice. I decided to start listening for him. And somebody gave me some tapes and I started listening, and I just fell in love with the man, because every question I had after reading this book, he answered for me.
Listen.
And so it was him explaining Columbus that really got me. I put a tape in a tape deck. For those of you who don't know, we used to
What a tape
listen.
deck is.
Yeah, we used to listen to cassettes that had recordings on them, and you'd put them in a little box, and it was a tape where the minister was explaining Columbus, and he said, poor fella, he was looking for a way east, but he went west, and he found people here. He said there weren't white people, they were the original people.
Listen.
And he said, and so he was looking for a way to India, so he saw them, and in his arrogance, he said, well, I'm looking for India, I see some people, you must be Indians. He goes, and that's what white people do, they name things.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, but that's our family. I never heard anyone talk about the native and black being family before. And so I immediately fell in love with it. I knew that this is what I had been looking for. So I went back and I started getting all the tapes that I could, all the final calls, all the books that I could, and started studying, looking for where the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mentioned the indigenous, mentioned Mexico, mentioned Latin America. And the more I looked, the more of a connection I found. And that really became my love and my mission and purpose.
Come on, right. Beautiful, beautiful firsthand experience, my brother.
And if I could say this part, real brother,
no, go ahead.
What it ultimately did for me, the knowledge of God and the knowledge of who I am, it made me stop. I was only a teenager, but I was smoking.
Okay.
I was drinking.
Right.
I was stealing. I wasn't doing drugs, but I was helping to put them in people's hands.
You was affiliated, as they say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I wasn't a wicked person by any means. I loved God, and I used to study, try to read the Bible.
Right.
But I didn't know what to do. I was totally lost. I was flunking out of high school, like so many of us do, until I found that word. And that word resonated with me. And even though the cover said black, and I didn't see myself as black, I didn't know who I was. My ignorance was my saving grace. Because not knowing who I was, I accepted the language of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and said, well, even though I don't see myself as black, it's affecting me, it's doing for me what he said it would do, then I have to be under that title. I just must not understand what black is. And boy, was I right, because he explained exactly who black is. And once I accepted that, I was able to be myself.
You just answered a question I'm going to ask in the next half. Maybe I'll twist it and ask it in a different way.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So here's what I want to do. I want to pause the show for a moment to say to everybody that's watching, please take a moment to go ahead and hit that like button, hit that share button. It just takes a click, because we want everyone that can hear the show to hear the show. And above all, take a moment to subscribe, because with us tonight is our brother, Abel Muhammad from Chicago, Illinois, and we've got a great second half coming up. But here is the last, well, actually, here's the question I was referring to here, and you sort of just answered it, but I'll ask it anyway. Perhaps you can give it a more wider answer.
Yes, sir.
The question is going to be, when our Latino family picks up this book, this same book, Message to the Black Man, and they see the word black, here's how I'll spin the question. When you are teaching the value of this book to our Spanish-speaking people, how do you get them to see themselves in the word black?
You know, it's interesting because it's not a literal translation. As we know, the word negro, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us, means death. Because it's not referring to, it's used as an adjective to describe man. So it's talking about a type of man, but it's not a Negro man, it's a black man.
Teach.
Now, black man would not be translated necessarily hombre negro in Spanish, because negro would have that essence of death from necros, the root from which it comes. The proper term in Spanish is moreno, which means a dark-skinned or black-skinned person, not an object.
Listen.
So negro would be used to describe the color of a thing, while moreno is not a color. Moreno is the description of a person whose root word is Moor, the Muslims, the Moors of Spain, the black people that came bringing Islam into Europe. These are what are referred to as the Moors, the Morenos, those who are black-skinned people, dark-skinned people. And with that name, it covers every shade, just like black does in English.
Come on.
Moreno covers all of it. So all it is about the understanding and misunderstanding of language. Because if we say literally black, then yes, it's negro, but negro in its root, we've already been taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, is not the correct word to describe the black man. Negro is a word that means and has at its root death. Wow. That's not the man we're talking about. We're talking about the Moreno, the man whose root is Islam or obedience to the will of God.
Blown away at that answer. This is DJ Rockwell, and right now you are watching the Rockwell Radio Show. Share the show, because right now we're learning some heavy information. My guest is our brother, Student Minister Abel Muhammad. Don't go away. We're up against our break. We went a little long in the first half, but stay tuned. We will be right back.
This is your brother Willie Muhammad, and I'm asking each and every one of you all to tune into the DJ Rockwell Show, live online. Peace.
Peace. This is your sister Aisha, the mental resurrectionist, hailing out of Baltimore, Maryland. Listen, whenever I'm online, I always tune into the Rockwell Radio Show. It's that hype. It's that dopeness. And you should tune in too. Peace to my brothers David and DJ Rockwell for holding it down, locking it down, giving us those sounds. Love y'all. Peace.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Sister Latasha Muhammad, and when I'm online, I rock with the Rockwell Radio Show.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
We're back. This is DJ Rockwell, the nation's #1 DJ, and you are tuned in to the Rockwell Radio Show. Our guest, once again, none other than our brother, Abel Muhammad. Brother, we are so glad that you've taken time out to share this information with us. I'm getting schooled and educated today. I don't know about y'all, but I'm learning some stuff I didn't know. So again, welcome, and we're so glad to have you. We're going to take a quick moment to watch a clip that I found. And from it, I was able to pull out a few questions.
Yes,
and it is in relationship to the Million Man March and 10-10-15. So, Brother Abel, you all watching at home, stay tuned. Check this out.
I was blessed to go in '95 to the Million Man March as not even being a member of the nation. I went and attended, me and some other Chicano brothers from here in Chicago, and we went with a group of brothers from a halfway house here in Chicago. So it was an interesting experience going to the Million Man March. The way back was very different from the way there. And 20 years later, I remember the only thing that I didn't like, if you will, about the 1995 march was, you know, your nature is you want to look for your people when you go anywhere. There weren't a lot of Latinos there in '95. There were some. We ran into people from Panama, Puerto Rico, but there was not a lot like you'd think, not for our numbers. It was not proportionate. And the only thing I kept wishing was, man, I wish there would have been more of us there. And so then 20 years later, in 2015, to be blessed to go back and be in charge of helping coordinate Latino participation, people from the indigenous communities all over the United States coming to participate, and then being blessed to even share some words at the event.
I would like to introduce my brother, the Latino representative of the Nation of Islam, Minister Abel Muhammad.
En el nombre de Allah, el benéfico, el misericordioso. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. La paz sea con ustedes. It's an honor to be here this afternoon with our black brothers and sisters, with our Aboriginal brothers and sisters, with our brothers and sisters from Latin America, the Caribbean, and all over Turtle Island.
Isn't it funny how God works?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always. Always.
So as I looked at that information, I was able to pull two questions that I wanted to ask as it relates to that. And the first one, I couldn't help but just, isn't it funny how God works? How you were there and you said, damn, where the brothers at? You know, and 20 years later, lo and behold, wow.
And I'll tell you the thing that meant the most about that, my brother, is the week after that, I got a call from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And after the 20th anniversary, after 10-10-15, I was on my way to an event to speak with people who had helped organize for the 10-10-15. And the minister called me and he said, well, I don't want, you know how he's so humble. He said, I don't want to interrupt, brother, because you know you got to get your thoughts together. But I just had to let you know how pleased I was with what I heard and what I saw that you all had done that day. And that meant more to me than anything, because it was his mind and his heart that wanted to see that. And we helped make it a reality, which let me know that my experience 20 years earlier was right, that what it did was motivating me. I didn't feel bad by any means about the Million Man March, don't get me wrong, but there's a personal thing that you want to see your people benefit from such a beautiful message.
Absolutely.
And I was blessed, and me and Sister Yonajda, who you saw there that day, and I don't know if you know, but the brother with the long, big, that you showed the picture of him, the chief that was there, he showed up unannounced, but he's a very important man in the indigenous community.
Okay.
He holds a special bundle, and he's a special chief amongst chiefs and medicine men amongst medicine men, but so humble. He just came that day and he didn't even really speak or anything. He just felt that he had to be there that day. But that and the fact that his image went all over to our native brothers and sisters meant a very, very great deal. And if you all get a chance later, just Google White Buffalo and you'll see that he's a special representative of that community that was happened to be with us that day. But it meant so much because it pleased the heart of the servant of God to see the people coming together that day.
Let's take one step back to 1995.
Yes, sir.
What motivated you to want to get on that bus in the first place?
You know, I was in Cuba. I had gone to Cuba for about 2 or 3 months. I had left the United States. We were in Canada. We were taking medical and school supplies to Cuba to ask them to end the blockade against Cuba. And while we were there, I was blessed to meet with Assata Shakur. And I really wanted to stay in Cuba because it was like a paradise compared to the United States. Don't get me wrong. It didn't have the amenities. It still doesn't. You know, there was rolling blackouts every day. There was not hot water, but hell, you're in the tropics in the Caribbean. What do you need hot water for? You know, not like that. We're spoiled is what I'm saying to a certain degree here in the United States. And there I saw people, brother, who lived, not that there was no racism, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't like here. Everywhere I met doctors. I was in the museum one day of the revolution talking with the sister who was the security guard. Come to find out she's a doctor. But they have too many doctors. So they asked her if she would take the position of a security guard for the revolution until a spot for doctors opens up that she could go into. That's how amazing a society that they had, brother. So I wanted to stay there. And the only reason I came back was because I knew that the minister had said he was going to DC and I wanted to be a part of it. So me and another Mexican brother from here in Chicago who passed a few years ago, my friend Oscar Montenegro, me and him decided we're going to go. He went to my first Savior's Day with me earlier that year in 1995 at the amphitheater. He had gone with me there. He said, let's go, man. Let's get on the bus. We found a bus on the south side leaving to DC that Sunday. We got on the bus. We rode with the brothers from the halfway house. They fought over some bologna for their sandwich on the way there to the Million Man March, about halfway there. But brother, after that message of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, after that day walking amongst them, we were buying meals for one another on the way home. That's how transformative and instant was the change. One brother stayed in DC because he found some of his family there after having just gotten out of prison in Chicago.
Wow.
And he was staying there. They weren't from DC. They were from Baltimore, I think, but they had come down, and he said, I'm going to go. My daughter is here. My son was there. I'm going to go home with them. And he stayed there. That's but in my heart, I wanted to be a part of it because I knew God was going to give us a message. And I wanted to see it for myself. And I'm glad I did, because it's the most significant day that I've ever experienced, next to the day that my children were born and the day that I accepted this truth. It's the most significant day, because it's the day that whenever in my mind I think, why am I doing this? It's because that feeling that I had on the mall, that day of peace, I want my wife to experience it, not just for a moment or a day, but every day. I want my children to live in that reality, not this one. So that day, I didn't know it was going to be that significant. I just knew something in me said I had to be there. And I'm so glad I did, because it really is the wind beneath the wings of everything I do, was that glimpse of heaven we received October 16th, 1995.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. I was going to ask you, as the second half of that question, how you felt at the event 20 years later at 10/10/15, but you answered it when you talked about that phone call. Is there anything you want to add to that thought?
Yes, you know, it was very different being one of the organizers for 20 versus just showing up as a guest.
I can imagine. Right.
Yeah, it was very different. There was a lot of sleepless nights. There was a lot of that morning. I remember getting up. It's all like one long day. I don't even remember how many days I was in DC. But I remember, and this is a little background story that probably most people don't know, there was a big teepee that was on the mall that day.
I remember that. I saw that.
And we had a sacred fire going in it. I'm talking about a little fire. It was maybe the size of this, in a little thing, just a little sacred fire that was going to be lit through the whole event to bless the event. And the grounds police came and tried to make us put it out. I don't know how it was a threat to anyone or anything, but several little, I don't know what you call them, battalions or whatever they're called, of them came and surrounded us on the middle of the night that Friday night. And as Allah would have it, some of the great FOI showed up out of nowhere.
Come on now.
To help us that night. Great brother, I believe Brother Steve is his name, from down in Atlanta, the martial arts expert, our brother who's down there. That beautiful brother with some of his students out of nowhere. I was just praying to Allah, because I said, I don't know. I'm on the phone calling Assistant Supreme, telling him what's going on. I don't even know what time of the night it was, but I didn't know who else to call. And he said, well, we don't want anything to happen. He goes, let's try to take care of it. Let me know if anything else happens. And as that was happening, Brother Steve and the brothers with him came through. And by the grace of Allah, of course, the TP stayed up, the fire kept going, and everything was peaceful. But we didn't know what was going to happen that night. But we had the spirit that whatever is going to happen, just like 20 years earlier, we didn't know if we were going to live or die through that day. We were ready to sacrifice and give whatever sacrifice for the purpose of our coming there, which it was for the world to receive a message from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So that, to me, was so much more ingrained in me, because I got to see how much work it took to bring people there, to organize the resistance even to a message of peace and justice that would be had there. But as you saw that day, as it was 20 years before, all we had was peace, peace, and more peace, because the message and the tone of the man who called it was not vain. It was not out of hatred or vitriol. It was out of a sincere desire to have the people hear the word of God and do the will of God.
Beautiful. Our guest is none other than our big brother, Abel Muhammad, Student Minister Abel Muhammad. He is the representative of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan to our Spanish-speaking people and our Latin Americans all around the world. And again, we are learning so much in this conversation about the kinship and connection between the black and the brown. This is DJ Rockwell, and you are watching the Rockwell Radio Show. Again, if you're just tuning in, welcome to the show. Share the show, hit the like button, because we have to get this message, this information to as many people as possible. Dear brother, let me ask this question as we start going towards the end or nearing the end of this great conversation. Speaking of your assignment, and these last questions will somewhat get into examining and getting a more thorough understanding of your assignment. How long have you held this assignment, and can you give us an example of what kind of tasks or what it entails for you?
You know, I've been blessed to do everything from just as recently as a week ago, attend a meeting put on by the Mexican consulate here in Chicago, a dialogue between the black and the brown, which is the first time for a government entity to have such a dialogue in the community is really never. I've asked, and it's never occurred before. There have been organizations socially who may have done that, or activists, but never an ambassador from the Mexican government to take on such a dialogue with the community, the black and the brown community here in Chicago, to, you know, being blessed to translate material that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has sent to other government heads to congratulate them or send a message, you know, going into the prisons and speaking to our Latino and black soldiers in there, our brothers and our sisters that are in there, as well as the universities, you know, as well as going into the neighborhood. And I've been blessed to walk the streets with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in Chicago.
Beautiful.
And every time we go, he says, where are the, I want to meet, I want to talk to the Latin kings. I want to talk to the Mexican brothers. I want to talk to the Puerto Rican brothers. He doesn't shy away from it. And I'll share with you this, dear brother, because it's really the essence of what I try to do in terms of assisting him. What we call Black Family Day, historically from New York City, that took place where he brought on two different occasions. Once, I believe it was 60,000 people. And before that, I believe it was 14 or 20,000, someplace in that range that he had brought people together. He said that he had gotten the idea from it, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he had seen a black and a Puerto Rican brother fighting on a bus one day when he was a young man, and it hurt him. And he always wanted to see us united. So that was the seed that brought together Black Family Day.
How about that?
Celia Cruz played. I believe it was Eddie Palmieri and Machito, all of these great Spanish acts, Spanish language acts, but they were black people. If you look across the top of the stadium that day, and I know Brother Student Minister Carlos has photos, the great NOI archivist, they have the flags of Central American and Latin American countries along the top of the stadium where he's speaking.
Listen.
Because that's how much he wanted the unity, because he saw that it's not what we call ourselves, because what we call ourselves is based on what we've learned from the enemy, but who God called us.
Listen.
That's what really my job, I believe, is. He told me the first 2 or 3 times that I was blessed to ever speak in my life to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He gave me the same directive 2 or 3 times. He said, take the teachings and put them in a way so that your people understand them. That means that there is some cultural differences, but at the root and essence, the message remains the same, because it's the same people at their root and at their essence. The difference is what's on top, because you came up under an English slave master. We came up under a Spanish slave master, and they had beef with one another. The Portuguese and the Spanish fighting, the Catholics and the Lutherans fighting, all of these groups fighting one another, and we came up with their divisions. That's why we're divided, not because of our complexion or hair texture or language or nationality or ethnicity. Those are artificial. Our essence is one. How do we know? God called us one. He said that this man, referred to as black man in America, his real identity is the original man. The man that's called Indian, red, his real identity, original man.
Listen.
The man who calls himself brown, he told us you're not really brown. Brown is the people of what is called Japan. You are the aboriginal, the original people. That's your real identity. And that's the best term we could use, brother. Say you're an original man. You're an original woman. What does that mean? Because nobody's ever called us original before. That means you were here before everyone else. Nobody's going to deny that. Nobody's going to reject that. And in truth, it's opening us up to accept who and what we really are.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm fired up.
Praise be to
I don't know about y'all at home, but I'm fired up because Minister Abel is with us tonight on the Rockwell Radio Show.
Praise be to Allah.
We are now at the 60-minute mark, dear brother, and I have to stop to ask, can I beg of you at least
please take your time. Take your time. I'm enjoying this, brother. I'm enjoying this.
Thank you. And again, I'm going to do one last station ID before we wrap up. If you are watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that share and like button and make this the night that you subscribe to the show. Make this the night that you subscribe to the show. And as always, when we're having a subject this big, always know it's bigger than hip hop. We do hip hop here. We're going to touch it tonight, but this subject is so much more bigger than hip hop. But while we're here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Brother Minister Abel, let's start moving towards our conclusion quickly here. Again, I titled this episode Reaching Across the Border because it seems that it best describes your work. What are you finding, dear brother, to be some of the borders or barriers, if you will, between Black and brown people, and what can be done to find a common ground?
You know, brother, we mentioned it. We've been mentioning it all night. It's ignorance in the truest sense of the word. It's not an insult. You know, if people, when we were young, people, you're ignorant, we take it as offensive, but it literally means to not know, to lack knowledge of something. How could we know what we've never been taught? It's not an indictment, ignorance. It's an indictment if we realize we don't know and stay in that condition.
Say it.
But if we never know, nobody feels bad. We know what we're looking at when we see our community out there. But I wanted to read you something from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in here. In this beautiful book called The Teachings 2.0, Twitter sayings of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Somebody asked the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan the question, how can we help to unite the Black and brown in Southern California? Here's his answer on Twitter. Learn the history and culture of one another to find common ground. Then you can build unity and break down barriers. A border is a barrier, brother. A border is something that is put up to restrict movement or restrict visibility. A border is something that is used to corral or keep things in a certain position. Our borders are mental, not physical. We have a border up in our mind that tells us we can't go into that community. We can't converse with them because they're too much unlike us. We can't trust them when we don't even have a history of harming one another. Yet we trust the one who has hurt all of us. This is the history, but because we don't know the history and culture of one another, we're ignorant to the knowledge of ourselves and others. So the greatest thing we need, and this is why they fear what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan brings. He informs not only Black people, but everyone else who listens. They don't know why Black people in America are in the condition that they're in. That history has not just been hidden from Black people, it's been hidden from the world. Listen, how could we know that you're in this condition because of what was done in a 64 year history that predates the 400 years of slavery?
Come on, man, teach.
If you didn't know and it was hidden from us as well. So all we see is the result, not the cause of it. Then you look at these Mexican people, say, man, you all got your own land. How come you're leaving it? Because you don't see the hidden history of what makes us feel that we don't have an option but to go, while you feel like you have no option but to stay here. And this is the ignorance because we've never been taught the knowledge of ourselves. This is what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan does. He awakens us. So now you have brothers in Mexico. There are young people in Mexico right now. I met some college students who call themselves Black.
Listen.
Just like that. They say when they define themselves, they use the English term Black because of their growing in understanding and listening to the truth, they say, look, all of that is covered under Black suffrage and what they have endured, we're enduring that right now. So apparently that is what Black is, and Black Lives Matter. Well, then I'm Black. So in Mexico last year, you saw people holding up signs, Black Lives Matter. They weren't talking about just you here in America.
Listen.
Although they were talking about their support for you here, they were saying my life is a Black life too.
Come on.
Not because I went through the same slavery that you did. No, that's not what makes me Black. Black is not the degree of suffering. Black is the essence from which we all come. All of us have suffered, but the Black man in America has suffered the most. So you get the message first. And now we're understanding why you got the message first, because as you mentioned earlier, brother, you don't have a homeland to reconnect to. You can't get up and decide I'm going back to where my granddad was from. All you got is at the best a continent that you could start with. We have direct towns and cities we can go into. Even if we don't own them anymore, there's at least some semblance of a connection to our root, where you have lost it all. So of course the work has to start with you first, but then it has to go across the border. It has to go across that thing that has divided us, set up by our enemy, because you are in most need of it, but not only in need of it. We need the truth too, because we don't really know what happened to us either.
I hope y'all are listening. I hope y'all are listening, because with us is Brother Abel Muhammad tonight. Wow. And we are shooting major fire from the Rockwell Radio Show.
Praise
major fire. Wow. I'm going to try to close, Brother Minister Abel. As you know, the Nation of Islam is reopening its doors tomorrow to the mosques and study groups all around the country. So let's stop and give a round of applause for that.
That's right.
Let's stop and give a round of applause for that part. So let's assume that there is someone out watching this program right now from the Latino or Spanish speaking community. And they're watching this interview and saying, man, I like what Brother Abel is saying. I'm attracted. I'm interested. I want to know more about this man, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But yet they have a skepticism, a hesitance, if you will. They feel that they may not fit. What would you say to that person?
I would tell them, I know what they're feeling, because I was like that too the first time I went to the mosque. But God is in control.
Come on.
And if your spirit is guiding you, I'll tell you my experience. I didn't know who was speaking. I know I wanted to come to accept, because I already believed from reading the books. I was just looking for a place where I'm supposed to become what I read about. And the night that I showed up was a Wednesday night, very cold and snowy here in Chicago. I had gotten on a bus, lost my way because it was on the other side of town that I never had gone to in all my life, because it's a big city, Chicago, and I was a teenager. But when I got there that night, two men spoke, two sons of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, both of them raised in Mexico. They didn't know I was coming. One of them was the minister in Detroit. The other one was the minister in Chicago. Student Ministers Rasul Muhammad and Student Minister Ishmael Muhammad. They didn't know I was coming, and I didn't know they were going to be there or who they were when I got there. But that night, I accepted the message, and the keynote speaker was Student Minister Rasul Muhammad, who had grown up in Mexico with his brother and family. And his message that night was the mission of becoming a Muslim.
Listen.
And everything I needed to hear, I heard that night. He quoted something about Zapata. He spoke a little Spanish. And when at the end, when he said it, who believes that what they heard today is the truth and good for our people, I raised my hand.
Come on.
And he asked to shake our hand. And that day I went up and got a chance to shake both of their hands.
Beautiful.
I didn't know who they were when I shook their hands until later. But it was Allah showing me, He's got you. He's got us. If you take a step towards Him, don't worry. Overcome the fear, the hesitation of the unknown, and trust God. Trust your spirit, and Allah will make a way for you. God will make a way for you and let you know that this is not just the place that you should be. This is the place He wants you to be. That's what I would say to anyone who's thinking, I'm not sure. I'm telling you, let them know wherever you go. Tell them, Brother Abel said I could come. Student Minister Abel from Chicago said I could come. I'm Mexican. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm from Ecuador. I'm wherever you're from. Just let them know you've been watching and you want to come because you heard something that you like and you want to learn more. You won't be denied because God won't deny you who he's calling to himself.
You heard it from our brother. He is the representative to the Latin American and Spanish speaking peoples of the earth on behalf of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Student Minister Abel Muhammad. We've only got one last question, dear brother. As we close out this evening, if you thought that we was going to let you get out of here without talking some hip hop.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So, brother, we're going to put you on the front screen to ask you this question.
Sure.
Who's your top 5?
Ooh, that's a good one. All right. Rakim, number 1. And this is not in a particular order. Rakim, though, undoubtedly. The God MC is the God MC.
Let's go.
For me personally, I got to put, and the rest of these are in no particular order.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'd have to say KRS-One.
That's 2.
Just because of longevity means something to me.
Right.
But content and pound for pound, J Electronica is in my top 5 because people are just, you may say what you want to say, but potency of lyrics means something. It's like doing that one finger push-up. You know what I mean? Like that's J Electronica as an MC to me. He's elite. Not everyone or anyone can do that.
Come on now.
But whenever he does it perfectly. So that's 3, right?
That's 3.
Me personally, because of her style, her voice, everything about it, MC Light is in my top 5.
Wow. And how many times do we hear a female in people's top 5, Dave?
Wow. And I would put a second one in because honestly, if I were to come new school, but I won't do it only because she's still so new and everything, is Sarat, our wonderful MC. But she's an honorable mention. She's an honorable mention, but she's eventually in my top 5, I believe, and when it's all said and done. But the 5th one would have to be, of all the MCs that I absolutely just love, regardless of genre or all of the things that they do, I'd have to say, thinking about it really, 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 really intently here, because this is the last position now, right? It's the last position. And I don't want to just throw in somebody new just to have somebody new in there. But
the pressure's on.
I gotta admit, when I hear at his best, right? When I hear this brother at his best, when he's doing what he does as an MC, it's like watching a supernova or something to me. And that's J. Cole. When I hear, just because I gotta give him a heads up, and it's not that I love everything that he does, but there's something about when he's doing what he does, there's a certain vibe that of all of the sort of newer era of MCs, he's the only one that still reminds me of a Nas. And he's the only one that still reminds me of a Jay-Z. And I know everybody loves those, but I like listening to Jay and Nas and all of them as well. But these 5 that I mentioned are people that I have they move my spirit, not just my ear. That's what I like about them. And it's not always that they're super deep, but there's something about their music. When you, for example, KRS-One, Love's Gonna Get You. That's not something you'd necessarily rock in a club, though you could. But it's something about it you connect with. When I think of MC Light, Cha-Cha, those kind of songs just give you a certain feeling. There's something about them. Same with J. Cole. When I think about, the songs that he does, it just has a certain vibe to them. Same with J Electronica. I'm just listening for their voice to see what they're going to say. And of course, Rakim. He has everything from the voice to the content,
full
to
package.
The flow. There's nothing. He to me is the prototype master. He's just incomparable. It's almost not even fair to put him into the top 5 because he's just. It's like saying who's your favorite, power in the universe? God, and then everything else is underneath. So it's just like that with me. But those to me would be the 5 that just move my soul. There's others that I enjoy, but if I had to just pick 5 that I'm going to listen to the rest of my life, I'm good with those 5.
Come on, brother. You just heard not only a wonderful teaching from Minister Abel Muhammad, you also got his top 5 MCs. Brother, this applause is for you. On behalf of the Rockwell Radio Show, we thank you for taking now an hour and 14 minutes out of your time.
Oh, no worries,
thank
my brother.
you for your support of our teacher, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We thank you for mounting the rostrum during this pandemic, Sunday after Sunday after Sunday. While we were comfortably in our homes, you were at Mount
Praise
so,
be
brother,
to Allah.
we again are humbled by your presence today. We love you and we wish you continued health, prosperity, and success.
And let me just say,
brother.
I'm honored. I'm thankful. I wish the same to you, your family, the radio family, all who are listening. We thank you for what you do in your own special way to reach God's people in a way that only you can through this special medium of radio and using music, which is really healing for our people.
Allahu Akbar.
And I thank Allah that you're marrying not only the sound of music from the vibration of tracks, but also from the words that are spoken, which should be in tune with those vibrations to bring about a full healing. So we thank you, dear brother, for what you and those who help you do.
So, all right, everybody, you heard it. We did it. That's Student Minister Abel Muhammad. This is DJ Rockwell. And next week here on the Rockwell Radio Show, Abdul Qiyam Muhammad. Tune in, put it on your schedules. Don't miss it because it's going to be a fat one, a big one, a huge one here on the Rockwell Radio Show. See y'all next week. We are out of here.
I'd like to know, are you really ready for some super dynamite soul?